Welcome to the Ultimate Mixtape, an interactive podcast on a mission to create an epic playlist. With submissions from your host, creative guests, and superfans along the way. What songs will make the cut? This podcast is about music, friends, and memories. Share your favorite stories on www.theultimatemixtape.com to join in the podcast fun. Here's your host, Jess Manzilla.
What's up, everybody? This is Jess Manzilla, and with me, as always, I have my partner in crime and life, Jimmy McFadden.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today with the Ultimate Mixtape. We actually have Morgan Paros today, and she has been on our radar for such a long time. She's toured with some of our favorite bands like Andrew McMahon and the Wilderness, Hunter Hunted, and she just got off tour with Ash. So we're really excited to have her on because she just announced that she's going to put out some of her own music. So she's got a new song coming out called Last Straw that's coming out on Friday, May the 5th. Go pre-save it now. And here is our interview with Morgan. Welcome, Morgan. We're so thrilled to have you on the show. Jimmy and I, we've been super fans of yours for so long, ever since the Hunter Hunted days. Honestly, you're one of the more talented musicians I've ever met. You're very accomplished, very impressive, and I just love your spirit. You're such a nice person. You just announced that you are doing your own music now, which we were thrilled about, so we knew we had to talk to you about it. How does it feel? Because every time we've seen you, you've done more like inside different bands and musical instruments. You're known for your violin skills, but how does it feel actually making your own music this time?
Well, it feels really exciting. I have been quietly doing it for a couple years now and kind of just seeing where each song that I write takes me and trying to figure out which ideas to pursue. And I just kind of hit a point this year where I felt like I was sitting on enough material that it was like I felt like I was in a do or die moment and kind of just, am I going to just keep sitting on this and not sharing it with anybody? And what is the point in that? Because I think when I first started writing, I was waiting to see if I would keep writing. And I've written songs over the years for like publishing companies or been in the room with artists writing, and I've like offered up a lyric idea or melody idea. And then obviously spend a lot of time in the studio in a musician capacity of like arranging and recording strings and things like that. But it was different like when it was me and I would find myself on a tour and a lot of flights, and for some reason really, feeling really creative lyrically up in a plane, and I would just be writing all these lyrics down while I was on a flight. And then kind of like, what do I do with all this? I just keep doing it, and there's no intention necessarily, but it's coming out anyways. And then when I realized it wasn't going to stop flowing, the creativity wasn't going to stop flowing, then it was like, okay, I guess I need to document some of this. And then
I saw you posted something like, my friends and family will kill me if I ask them to listen to one more demo.
Yeah, totally. My dad actually has been on me for like 6 years now of like, when are you going to start your band?
No, Dad.
And this whole time I was like, well, my band isn't going to pay me to pay my bills, so not right now. And finally,
soon, Dad, soon.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it needed to be like the right timing and have the time to really put into releasing music and feeling like I have a body of work that's collecting that supports itself and makes sense together too.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw some of the like little snippets on TikTok. You're posting like little bits and pieces of the song, and I'm already obsessed with it. Jimmy was like, oh yeah, it got stuck in my head for 4 days. I was like, oh.
It did. I sing the same verse over and over again. I'm
The
like,
song is called Last Straw, correct? And it's
Yeah.
dropping May the 5th with, if you're listening currently, is in just a few days. So that is very exciting. And what do you think about the story behind the song is going to relate to like your fans and maybe new fans?
Yeah. Basically, my whole thought process behind the song and lyrics, I started writing it in during the pandemic. It was March of 2021, and I was in isolation in the English countryside.
oh, wow.
How are you?
Well, let me, there was a lot of beauty to it, but also it was very lonely. I wasn't there with friends. I was there with my partner, but he was working the whole time. And so he would be gone for like maybe 16 hours a day. And it would be like, wake up, goodbye. I would go to sleep, and he would often return after I was asleep or like as I was getting ready for bed. So I would have all this time by myself. But when I mean countryside, I mean like I didn't have any mode of transportation other than walking on my
Oh
own.
my gosh.
And there was no shops, no restaurants, like nothing. Like it was maybe a 10-mile walk to town or something. So I would go for a walk every day, but I didn't actually have like a way to interact with other people.
Yeah.
It was quiet, and I think the first chunk of being there, I really enjoyed that piece. And I live in Los Angeles. It's very urban where I live, and there's a lot of noise and city living. But so I think initially I really thought, oh, this is like a kind of peaceful retreat, and I would go for these long walks, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But it got to be really lonely after a bit. So anyways, back to your question. I think in that time, though, I was interfacing a lot with like what was happening on the news, what was happening just like in terms of the world. And like, I think there was a collective loneliness happening, also a collective trauma happening with the pandemic, and a lot of worry and anxiety that was building up. And I think vaccines were starting to roll out, but it wasn't like widely accessible at that point. And like, I hadn't been vaccinated yet at that point. And I think I just wrote this out of that place of like feeling like there was so much turbulence and so much just a dynamic of pain and also questioning that people were experiencing and that I was experiencing, and feeling like, if we're going to keep having to listen to all these people talk about their opinions about how something should happen, like I would prefer if people like spoke from a place of like care and kindness, and spoke from a place of like solutions oriented. And I feel like I was online all the time, because that's how we could connect with people. And it just felt like there was so much just words on the internet, but
vomit.
not action, and not a lot of like grounded words, just a lot of chaos. So I think it was like born out of wanting to give myself a little bit of courage and hope in a time that felt like everything was falling apart, and hopefully offer that sense of courage and hope and support, and like, hey, you can ground in yourself, and you can like center on whatever lights you up, and have that be a guidepost, because there's not always going to be those guideposts outside of us. So I think that's what I'm from.
Yeah, and honestly, one of my favorite things about you as a musician, anytime we've talked to you, you're so like thoughtful about your music and like what you want to portray with it. So I can't wait to hear what your message is going to be. But I also even saw like recently on Instagram, you were making music with a female band, like all female. How important is that to you to really like support other females in the music industry?
Oh, it's hugely important. And I'm really hoping to get more opportunities where I get to do that type of work too. But I wish I could say that it was often in my career and often that those opportunities come, but it really hasn't been. So whenever I am presented with a really cool, exciting project, like with this particular one you're mentioning, it was with the artist Ella Voss, and she and her music director, Emily Moore, who I've had the pleasure of playing with a little bit recently. Emily's an amazing guitarist, and she is on tour actually right now with Gracie Abrams, opening for Taylor Swift.
Oh my God.
But Emily music directed the project for Ella Voss, and we came in to do like this live version of her song, Mind Reader, and I love the recorded version of that song. It's such a fun dance pop track. But Ella Voss, she just has like such a cool perspective, and she's an amazing songwriter and lyricist and vocalist, and also trained classical pianist, which if you watch the video, you're kind of like, wow, this is a bit of an intricate part that she's just casually playing while singing over it. So yeah, it was a kind of a super group of women in music who tour, like the bass player and the drummer and Emily, who played guitar. Like they've all toured for so many years with different artists, and also Jenny, who played keys in the video. She and Emily toured last year with Mitski all year. So like there's it was like a super group of women who toured.
Yeah. Like everything you're saying, I'm like, I will buy the tickets.
Right.
Yeah.
When do we go?
I think all of us felt that too. We were like, can we do this every weekend? Like, this is awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah. So Morgan, we did talk about Hunter Hunted earlier, and Jess obviously said how accomplished you've been. But we did a little bit more research about like education and things like that, and we found out that you have a BA in violin performance.
Yeah.
That you studied in Paris. So my two questions for that regarding that are like, what got you started in violin? And have you always like had a passion for it, like since you were a kid?
Cool. So I got started in violin because that was the instrument my mom could find a private teacher for.
Thanks, Mom.
I feel like that's always the thing. Like, didn't Hunter say something like, "Oh, my parents made me play piano and I hated it"?
Yeah.
Well, so my parents actually, they did not. This was not their idea. Like when I was 4 years old, I was begging for music lessons, and I actually famously or infamously in my family, I was apparently a problem because my mom would pick me up from preschool and after school programs, and I would straight up tell her she was ruining my career. And I have no memory of this, but apparently I did it often, and I told her we have to move to Los Angeles or New York City because this is not going to work for me. How am I ever going to make it in the music industry if I live here in Columbus, Ohio? Which I don't know how I knew that, because this was like, you know, in the 90s, and I didn't have internet and cable television, and I don't know what gave me this crazy idea, but
it was just in your soul.
Yeah, it was in my soul. I just knew that I had songs to sing and things to do. So so my mom's coworker had 3 daughters in violin lessons, and finally I think my mom was just kind of at her wit's end and like, okay, we got to get her into something because she was asking about this. So then I ended up in violin, and I was like, this is my golden ticket. Like I'm gonna take music lessons. And so I just really dove in really hard on that.
Yep.
And I love music, and I love classical music, and to this day, like, I don't know, looking back, I don't know if I would have chosen a different instrument, honestly. Like, I really do love playing violin, and I really love string arrangements and string instruments. And I think in a technical aspect, like going to college for violin performance and studying classical music at that level, and having to prepare to even go to college for that instrument, I think it prepared me in a lot of ways that I would not have been prepared otherwise. Like, so I've been able to go and like, you know, play piano, play guitar, and I bought a electric bass last October, and I've been starting to play bass. And I just don't think, like, had I started on those instruments, I necessarily would have transitioned the wide multi-instrumentalist array that has kind of I've accumulated over the years.
Yeah, I think like a side note on that, you don't typically hear violin in like rock music. So I always thought that was so interesting. Like a band like Yellow Card, I absolutely loved them. So like when I hear somebody like you, even in like Andrew's band, like I just love that sound. It pulls it all together in a weird way that you never expected that you would have loved.
Right.
Cool. I love hearing that. So I'm glad that it came across that way, because, you know, it's not without a lot of intention and effort. And, you know, to Andrew's credit too, like when I first started playing with him, we spent a lot of time on specific tones for each song, or even parts of songs, like where I might change my pedals throughout the song to capture a different tone altogether or a different effect. And he really worked with me on that. Just even when I would try to replicate certain guitar lines that were in other songs, and maybe have a moment with Bobby on stage where we were dueling a little bit, or like organizing together, and how do we get these tones to like sync up in a really cool way. So, and I love getting nerdy like that with gear.
Yeah. I remember on Rock Boat when you and Bobby were like face to face going.
That was cool.
Yeah. So a little bit further with the education, how much do you think it's helped you? Like, obviously you've performed all over around the world. How much do you think like that education, like having that BA in violin performance and then studying in Paris, like how much do you think that's helped you?
I think for violin a lot. It's one of those instruments that I think is really hard to just learn on your own. Like there's other instruments that I think are more approachable, like maybe not to get to a level to be like a concert touring pianist, but anybody can go up and touch a key on the piano and it will make the sound that it's supposed to make rough, you know? And I think violin is just not that way. It's like you can hand anybody a violin and it might just be like a or like a crunch, or so. I think to all the string teachers of the world, like they really make you go from sounding horrible to sounding acceptable. And then from that point, it's kind of up to the individual and their own motivation and style. And, you know, and I think even people who learn kind of like if we look at fiddle or roots-based music, like even those people, they learn either from a teacher or a mentor or community where they're playing songs together. So even those, like in the roots-based tradition, like you're still not learning all by yourself. So
right. Yeah, that makes sense. So this might shock you, but I've never been in a band.
I'm a little surprised.
I have some amazing chops, but I have just never been in a band. But we know that you've worked with some pretty talented bands like Jonas Brothers. You've actually done the musical arrangement for Shawn Mendes for Look Up at the Stars. So what do you thrive more on, like putting an arrangement together or like playing violin?
Oh gosh, I think they are mutually beneficial. I think some of the best arrangers out there are also talented players themselves, and they have a very great understanding of how you work around the instrument and parts that would be really beautifully played in a certain way, or so yeah, I really love getting to do studio work and also live performance. And one of my big goals for the next, like for this year and upcoming years, is I'm just trying to do more arranging work in general.
Nice.
Like when I am not touring, that I'm trying to get into the studio and work with some artists that I love and help if they want strings, help bring a different kind of feel to what they're working on, and see, you know, put that cherry on top of the recording Sunday.
I think the arrangement part would be so cool to like see something from the start and then you see the song come out. I think it would.
Yeah, wasn't didn't you, not to bring it back to Andrew again, but you arranged something for him, and I think it was like a televised video. Was it during Dear Jack?
Yeah, so I actually did 9 songs. I arranged 9 songs for the benefit show for string quartet or string, depending on the song. And
I
so
remember that, and I was like, holy crap, she is good, because this was incredible.
It was so beautiful and fun. And I have all the arrangements still. So at any point, if Andrew wanted to do a recorded version of those things, or a live performance, like with even a bigger ensemble, the arrangements exist. So
it'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the string players we had come on for that, they were just awesome to work with, and super professionals. They play on film scores and sessions, and so they were able to come in, and I gave them the music ahead of time. But yeah, everyone came in and did a really good job.
Awesome.
And since we're Morgan super fans, we also saw that you just recently went to the Grammys, which is like insane. And like, I have stress dreams thinking about what it would be like to go to something like that. Like, what do you do? Do you just like walk past Beyonce? Like, what happens? Like, what was that like?
The Grammys were so fun and beautiful, and it was really just exciting for me on a personal level, because I was there to support my partner, Jeremy, and he was nominated for 8 Grammys.
It's crazy.
This year, and it was his first year being nominated too. So that was really, really special.
To him.
Yeah, thank you. I will pass that message along.
We're impressed. That's crazy.
So that's what made it special for me, is just getting to really celebrate his achievements, and the teams that he worked with too. Like, it was a very celebratory day and time, and and he walked away with 3 Grammys. So it's pretty cool.
That's so cool that you got to be there, and like, I saw you guys all dressed up. You guys looked magnificent.
Thank you.
That's like such an event. I mean, in my head, it would be once in a lifetime, but for probably you guys, you'll be back a few times.
You never know. And I think that's also the kind of glory of the day, is like, I think even for people who have won a lot of times, like, it's still a special day, because you just never know, like, if you'll get nominated, or if you'll be back or not. And maybe you'll be returning in a supporting capacity for many years. But I think, you know, even for a lot of artists, they don't necessarily expect to win. So, and it's very protected, that information. Like a lot of people don't realize, but you don't get your Grammy statues on the day, because they don't even send the winning names out to the people that make the statues until after the awards are announced. So
that's
nobody,
behind the scenes stuff we gotta know.
Yeah, exactly. It's so top secret. They don't share that information. So we don't have our Grammy statues, or his Grammy statues, yet at the house, but I think they're coming soon. But then afterwards, the company that makes them, I think it's they've been making them for 40 years, and it's a very small operation, and they have to spend all this time engraving the statues afterwards.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So when you were there, was there anybody that like made you starstruck? Like,
yeah, actually, we were on the red carpet, and Sam Smith and Kim Petras walked by, and they had, first of all, they were just like, there was a stunning outfit and stunning kind of just energy. Like I think everybody on the red carpet, it was kind of like the sea party. Because Sam and Kim, and they had their entourage. I'm assuming they were some of the dancers that were later in the performance with them.
Yeah.
But it was, and Sam had this big cape, and I was just like, oh my God, they look amazing.
That's one of those cool experiences that you'll never forget.
Totally.
But
And
now that you're doing your own thing, like, who would be on your bucket list then? Like, who do
to
you want to work with?
work with, oh gosh, that's so hard to say, but I will say that I am obsessed with Feist's new album, Multitudes. If you haven't heard it yet, it is just an amazing body of work. And I think from the lyrics to the sonic approach of like how they treated the audio, and even just like there's such an intimacy level that they achieved on the songs that I'm just kind of blown away by. So I just think from just being a woman in music, like I really look up to Feist because I am younger than her, and I feel like we don't often get to see women in their like mid-career stages come out with like what might be their best body of work ever. And I just think it's so cool because that speaks a lot to like the ethos that I believe in, which is that, you know, as much as certain industries might celebrate like women in their like teens and 20s,
Right.
and you know, it's like I think a lot of people like around, doesn't matter who you are, you know, you learn more as time goes on, and you can hopefully grow as a person as time goes on and evolve and become more confident, become maybe more interesting and have new ideas that you want to share. And so I'm just really inspired by her latest body of work, and that it's happening now where she's at in her career. And I just think it's really cool. And same with Caroline Pelachek's new album. I really like her new album too. And I don't know if like these are artists that I would ever have an opportunity to work with or open for or anything like that on a tour, but because I don't know.
We're manifesting. We're gonna put that out there.
But it's more just like, I think what's so cool about music is you could be just ultra inspired by an artist who maybe is not even in like your exact same genre, but there's like an approach that's happening or an intention behind it that is like coming through the music so loud and clear that I think that is just energizing and super, makes me feel so encouraged and enthusiastic about still making music for many, many years to come.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So part of the title of our podcast is obviously the Ultimate Mixtape. So each episode we're asking the person who we're interviewing to add a song to our mixtape. So at the end, we'll have 12 episodes and we'll have 12 songs and we'll make a mixtape from it. So you gave those two performers just then, but is there any specific song that you would want to add to our mixtape?
And this is like any artist,
any song, any artist,
anytime, any, like literally anything.
Ooh. Well, I think I might have to just stay true to what I was just talking about, and maybe offer up a new Feist song that I've been listening to, and I'm going to make sure I get the name right. It's called Borrow Trouble.
Just write that down.
On the list.
Awesome. We will add it. We will add it. It's going to be fun because, like I said, it'll have like 12 to 15 songs at the end, and it's going to be all different, which is going to be like the best part of it all.
Well, I've been adding basically any musician that anybody talks about onto this list because it's turning out to be crazy. Like everybody's talking about so many artists that inspire them. So, you know, whatever we find, we're adding it to the list. It's going to be a cool list.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
We did see that you had a Spotify list, so that was actually kind of cool. It went right with our podcast, so it was kind of perfect.
I started called Better Talk. It's called Better Than Talk Radio, and it's just kind of like, I hope that's funny. Like it's tongue in cheek for me, because a lot of people don't know this, but I actually love talk radio. It's it's not even like a diss on talk radio, but I don't know why. The name struck me one day. I was like, yeah, that's gonna be the name of my playlist.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So it's supposed to capture the vibe a little bit of my upcoming release for Last Straw, and I think I'll just keep adding and like slightly adjusting the playlist with my other releases that will come out.
But isn't that the best? Like you can like show different things that are inspiring you in the moment. Like that's the whole point of like, I guess it's not a mixtape anymore because the time has passed, but you know, mixed playlists at this point. Like I always love the idea of seeing other people's playlists because you're like, oh man, I love that song. Like I can relate to that so much. So I like the idea of everybody sharing like what is like cool to them at the moment.
Yeah. And you get to learn new music, which is like cool, like really fun. So we're always into new music. But so you recently toured with Ash, which was a super long tour and it looked like a great time. What is your favorite thing about touring, and when are you coming to Florida to be on the road again?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love touring because I love live performance, and I think the reason I love live performance so much, I finally figured it out after all these years. Beyond the fact, okay, I will say I love touring because I love traveling and I love new things and new people, and I just like lights my brain up. So to be in a new place almost every day and you're trying new food and so I know like some people are really like centered in a routine, and I think that feels like my routine is like, oh, I'm doing some things the same every day. It is, touring can be like Groundhog Day too, depending, because there's like an element of it that is like clockwork, but there's a lot of newness involved too, and I think that keeps it fresh. And then I also realized after all these years that my brain goes into kind of like this flow state when I'm performing, and so it feels a lot like a deep meditation maybe would, where you're just like all your thoughts are off. So like there's no more thinking, no more chatter, no more like trying to come up with a strategy or an idea for something. It's just like your brain, that whole part goes off, and then it's just like you're in this flow state. It kind of feels like really peaceful to my whole system to get to be in the flow state and just like super elevated in terms of like there's like this cool energy output, but then you get so much energy back from whoever's there at the show, and I just love that kind of like that feeling of engagement. And then also when the performance just feels like really connected with the other members on stage, and it feels like a cool group meditation kind of, but not in like a weird hippie way.
Not a cult.
No, just like
The Ash tour looked very fun. Like you looked like you were having a blast. Like,
it was everything. It was amazing. I love her, and I love what she stands for, and she's one of those performers and songwriters that I just think her music is going to stand the test of time. She's such a great songwriter and vocalist, and it was one of those dreams that I'd had for such a long time after touring as the only woman on stage for years and years, and the only woman on a tour, like maybe out of all the bands I was the only woman on stage. And so it was really cool to get to switch into a new experience that I had really dreamed of for a long time, and getting to sing with another female, even like I was singing background vocals for her. And that was something that actually I didn't expect it, but it was a little intimidating at first for me, because I had gotten so used to harmonizing with men and kind of like singing and matching their vocal tones and trying to blend my voice in with theirs, and as much as you can manage to do that. And it was really interesting because at first in rehearsals with Ash, that was one thing that I thought was going to click like so easily for me. And it actually took a second for me to realize like, oh, like here's something new you actually haven't been doing. And I have to like learn her voice. And then like once it clicked, I was like, oh,
This is
amazing.
Do it. Honestly, Morgan, it's been so fun talking to you. We could probably talk for like ever if you let us, but we'll let you get back to your very busy life. You've got new music coming out. Like we said, we're so excited. You can actually, if you're listening, pre-save her song Last Straw on Spotify right now, and add it to all your playlists because it is good.
Thank you.
Let us know, Morgan, and let everyone know where we can find you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I am on Instagram. It's just at Morgan Paros, and I'm sure my name will be spelled by you all.
Yes.
And I'm also on YouTube, same deal, at Morgan Paros, and TikTok, it's at morgan.paros. And Spotify, that's my artist name, is my name. And yeah, I am just so delighted that you wanted to talk with me today. Thank you, Jamie, so much.
This has been a blast. It's been a blast.
Oh my gosh, I hope to do it again. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time, Morgan. We love you, and we can't wait to see you when you do come on tour. You know we're gonna follow you. So
thank you. Yeah, I hope I get to come back to Florida soon. I don't have a date yet, but you never know.
Right.
We've got a lot of months left in 2020.
Yes, we do.
right.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much.
Good to talk to you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe everywhere that you get your podcast. And please don't forget to send your favorite songs to our website, theultimatemixtape.com, under the contact section. And while you're at it, please check out our blog. There's a lot of reviews about recent shows we went to, pictures that I've taken. So there's a lot of concerts coming up. So we hope to see you at a show soon.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.